Welcome to the Fazbear Entertainment training video of a tutorial of how to wear a Springlock suit. If you don't know what a Springlock suit is, a Springlock suit doubles both an animatronic costume and a wearable costume. The costume can switch between suit mode and costume mode by twisting the hand crank on the back of the torso. According to the diagram, the Springlock suit has four main engineering parts of how Springlocks usually work. There's a hand crank that pulls the Springlock animatronic parts back. The spring locks inside can make the springs lock in place and tightened, and it will be turned into costume mode. However, if you want it back into suit mode, unwind the hand crank and make the spring locks untightened and release the animatronic parts to its neutral state. Here's a quick demonstration of how spring locks actually work with four main components. Be cautious of the fact that if you do release the spring locks while you're inside, your organs will get crushed and pop out, and you will be stuck in the Springlock suit and wait for 30. Now if you got all of the basics and learned what a Springlock suit is, you are moved on to the next step, how to wear a Springlock suit. Welcome to Parts and Service. If you have finished your lesson on how Springlocks usually work, you are allowed to move on to the next step and learned all of the basics of a Springlock suit. For your lesson today, you will learn how to dismantle parts on the Spring Bonnie animatronic Springlock suit when wearing the costume on. And do what you're meant to do if wearing the Springlock suit. What we'll need for today is a high-pressure hand crank. This model is compatible for the Mark I of the Spring Bonnie animatronic. As shown on the tape, as you can see, we have a model of Spring Bonnie Mark I with active spring locks. We will use this one as we go on. The first step to this method is that we need to use the high-pressure hand crank. This is what you'll need to turn your Springlock suit into costume mode by moving the spring locks with the high-pressure hand crank. What you'll actually have to do is that we'll need to use Spring Bonnie's head. We will then attach the high-pressure hand crank on the back of Spring Bonnie's head. Keep in mind that the high-pressure hand crank is 6 kilograms of weight and 13.2277 pounds. First, attach the hand crank at the back of Spring Bonnie's forehead and wind up the hand crank clockwise. This will make the spring locks lock in place, and it should be tightened and turn into costume mode. Great job! You have now turned your Springlock suit into costume mode, and you're ready to put in your Springlock costume. Next, we're on to dismantling the animatronic parts on the suit. But before you do that, make sure that the spring locks are tightened and locked in place. It is good to double check on the spring locks for safety reasons. First thing to dismantle the Springlock suit is to remove both arms firmly and precisely until it is completely removed. If you manage to remove both arms safely, great job. You are now moved on to the next step. Next, remove both the torso and the head. There are two sides on the torso and the head which connects to the suit, which makes the animatronic suit connected to each other. Dismantle both the head and the torso and split it apart precisely and possible, and gently remove it from its Springlock suit. Do the same thing for the head as well, until it is completely removed.